Hi, I'm Ben Wheatley and I'm here to talk about my favourite movies. If I'm sick at home, I'll watch science fiction probably, and I'll watch something old from the 50s or the 60s, and I'll do something, I don't know, I like to watch kind of anything with Ray Harryhausen animation in it, stop motion animation, or stuff that, or sometimes I just look online and see what I remember as a video cover but never watched at the time, and I'll dig it out, and that'll be a special treat because I've watched so many movies. It's like there's not much, I mean obviously there's a lot of world cinema I've not seen, but there's stuff of the genre stuff that I want to watch which I never caught at the time. So even the other day I thought, oh, I've never seen Congo, and what a treat that film was. It was monkeys and lasers and all sorts of stuff, so I watched that and enjoyed it immensely, which I would have probably been a bit more snotty about it at the time, but now I'm like, yeah, it's a lost movie for me. I like to rewatch films on occasion, but I mean, I guess there's only a few that I properly rewatch, and I guess it might be I'd watch Laputa Castle in the Sky or something like that, Miyazaki, but I might watch Seven Samurai. I like to watch Blade Runner. I watch Terminator 2 in that massive box. The box of my Terminator 2 is not that size. I imagine this is like the biggest DVD ever in here. It's possibly the film itself. It's like 5 reels of stuff, or a whole Terminator like folded up inside. I've no idea why it's that big. First time I watched Terminator 2 was in the cinema on release. And an older woman sat next to me and tutted all through the action. And I'd waited 2 years to see the film, and I was furious, and I was like, sort of, please shut up. And she said, "You're just like my son, a psychopath." And I was like, ah! So I had to move seats, and then I had to go back the next day and watch it. So it didn't totally ruin it for me, but yeah. Well, I think my first choice, looking at all these films, I don't need the giant Terminator disc. I don't need the man with rings. Mr. Ring himself. I've got all that stuff. I have the complete Star Wars. I've got all that. Don't worry about that. I don't need Coldplay Live 2012. Don't need that one. But what I do fancy a bit of, which I remember I love so much, is the Dogma 95 movies. Das Fest, which I know is Festen. Idioten, which I know is the idiots. And so, yeah, I saw the Idiots at Cannes. When we were kids, we used to go to the Cannes Film Festival. And in those days, before all the security, you could go to Cannes by simply printing out a business card, a railway station with a producer written on it. And then you could apply for accreditation for $25 or whatever. And you get accreditation, and you'd go there as a producer before IMDb, before they could check that you'd made any movies. And then we used to go and stay in a campsite and then go into Cannes by train, and on a budget of like £2 or £3 a day, so enough for a baguette and a bit of cheese, and watch movies all day long. And one of them was The Idiots, and it wasn't a competition screening, it was like a sales screening. So we would go to the sales screenings, and then you'd go under the Palais and you could have as much coffee as you could drink from the people who were selling the coffee vending machines to cinema chain. And yeah, and so I saw that there. And then I saw Festen later, I guess, or maybe it was earlier, I can't remember, but I saw that in the cinema, and I just loved it. And I loved the camera work and subsequently I've talked to and met Anthony Dodmantle and talked to him about how he shot. And at the time, it was shot on little Sony cameras, which you could actually buy, and they weren't that expensive. And so we bought the same cameras Festen was shot on and tried to do shots like Festen. And then later I made a film called Happy New Year, Colin Burstead, which is kind of a bit like Festen. Everyone noticed, but it wasn't really, but it was a bit.
Wie geht es dir?
Ganz gut.
Sicher? Bist du sicher?
Michael, ich werde dir jetzt mal was sagen!
Können Sie nicht ein bisschen schneller fahren?
Ich höre jetzt auf und hoffe, dass wir alle miteinander ein schönes Fest feiern. Lasst uns was essen.
Yeah, but the thing is, we've been making films with the Dogma manifesto because we couldn't afford lighting and we couldn't afford music, so we've been doing that anyway. So, but I like all that. I like how silly it is to have the musicians standing behind the camera playing the music, and it's brilliant. There was a whole load of Dogma movies, and they were all really interesting. I'm going to go for the Jim Jarmusch Volume 1, but there is I did notice there is Volume 2 as well, so I would probably take that one as well, quietly. But I find that when I saw Down by Law originally, which I saw in a repertory cinema, I didn't see it as on release, but I saw it maybe a few years later. And it's just, it's one of those films that is cool, but it also makes you cool watching it. So you go and you have a cigarette and you drink some coffee and you go and see it in a flea pit repertory cinema, and you go in as a normal person, you come out much, much cooler. And I just love the style of it, and the same with Mystery Train. Stranger Than Paradise is really interesting because it's shot in single reels. I think each scene is as long as a reel of 16 mil or something like that. Done as a for artistic reasons, but also because it saves money, and that's kind of inspirational. You know, that you can do a lot with a little, and kind of build it into the actual making of the movie. And I've continued to watch Jim Jarmusch movies. I think they're fantastic, and it was always exciting when they come out, and he stuck to his guns, and he is terrific. So that's that. It's like a cinema of timing, you know. It's like the timing of it is, nothing seems to be happening, but it's all happening at exactly the right pace, and is totally enthralling. And if anyone else had shot those movies, you'd be going, I don't understand what this is. But from out of those two, it's fantastic. I think for me, cinema when I was a kid was just a total mystery and magic. So I didn't even know people made it. I just thought it was, you know, like a weird hallucination that came out of the TV set. Or it was only later that I worked out that you could actually have a job doing it. But it wasn't something I've ever thought about when I was a kid. But then maybe that's my age, that no one really talked about how films were made. This is a more recent thing that you can actually look it up, you know, and go, oh, and there's behind the scenes and how-tos and YouTube endless stuff and DVD extras and stuff. I remember seeing The Thing, the John Carpenter film, on Laserdisc, and that it had a commentary, and it was the first time I'd ever heard of that a film would have a commentary, and people would talk about the making of it, which is like a major moment, you know. Everyone got blasé about it over time, but that first one was like, oh my God. I'll go for Fassbinder, the box set of the Fassbinders. I mean, they all blurred together for me. I watched like loads of them when I was a kid, and like, you know, a big chunk, one after the other. And I loved the fact that he was just boshing stuff out, and it was like they were plays and he'd written them in an afternoon, and then they were filming them, and he was producing one and writing one and acting in one and editing another one, and they were coming out pell-mell. But some of them are really extraordinary, like World on a Wire I really love. It's about it's not part of this, but it's about as perfect a TV show I've ever seen. The Fourth Generation I think is fantastic as well, but it's I just love it. I love the energy of it, and how many films was it? Like 30 films before he's 40 or something like that.
Das haben wir nicht gekonnt!
Is this all of Heimat? I wonder if it is.
Yes.
Oh no, it's all of them. So 1, 2, 3. I mean, this is like a lifetime's viewing here. You could start this as a boy and finish it as a man. Heimat was, I remember it being on British television in the 80s, and then I kind of it's just not something. It's not something that's that easy to watch when it's on TV and you have to commit to it. But once I remember it coming and going and it being this weird thing that was on TV and then I got it on when it came out on DVD, and then I understood it and I watched Heimat 1. And Heimat 1 is so in advance of, it's the most advanced television made. They're only just catching up with it now. And some of the episodes are 55 minutes, some of them are feature length, some of them are black and white, some of them colour, all over the shop. And it's brilliant.
Das da ist das Dorf 1919, da war ja sogar das Denkmal. Das ganze Dorf auf der Beine. Der Lehrer hat den Schulchor dirigiert und alle waren so ganz fein angezogen. Da sieht man das Denkmal noch, ohne Kapuze.
And from a British perspective, to see the dealing of the rise of fascism and the Second World War, and then passed it into the Biedermeinhof and all that kind of 80s stuff, from a German perspective, was really fascinating, because that's something we'd never seen or kind of understood. So yes, awesome. And Heimat 2 is awesome too, and Heimat 3 is awesome, and it's all awesome, it's all fantastic. And I am due a rewatch of this, I think. But I've watched it multiple times, so it's kind of, we always go back to Heimat. No, it changes all the time, really. I don't know off the top of my head what my favourite movie would be. I think I will look in my heart. I don't know, I guess like a perfect action movie would be The Seven Samurai, I think. Paper Moon is a great movie, like an unbelievably great movie. I really like Taxi Driver, but it just depends what your mood is when you sit down for it. So, and it's a bit like, it's not a sport. You know, there isn't a way of kind of making like one at the top and they're all the other. That's why I was thinking that, 100 greatest films of the 21st century, it doesn't mean anything, to me, or people voting on it or whatever. I don't give a fuck what other people think about films, particularly, or what their opinions are like that, because it doesn't matter. It's what you like is what's important. Well, for me, it's all about I like the early ones, particularly. And I go back to, I've watched The Goalkeeper's Fear of the Penalty, whatever the German name of that is, I've no idea. And I really love Paris, Texas, and American Friend, and I think there's a kind of lightness and a kind of, he is another one a bit like Jarmusch in that respect, that is a sketchy lightness which is impossible to do unless you're a master, Yeah. So it feels gentle, the storytelling, but to be able to be that relaxed is like an impossible task for most people, I think.
Just a perfect day. Feed animals in the zoo. Then later, a movie too, and then home.
There's a run of Wenders films which are, they're like poetry, as close to film poetry as you can get, I think. And also that thing of being, which seems to be the lost thing of being art house but commercial at the same time. So, and they're big releases and people are going to see them, and it's da-da, and now it's harder to, everything's a little bit harder to do than that. Well, yeah, that was my pick. I guess I would say to watch all those films immediately if I was you, if you haven't seen them already, and even if you have, they're worth watching again. I hope you've enjoyed them, and have a good weekend, and see you later.